Did y'all see the White House claiming Drake is MAGA? They done edited this man's album cover to where he's now holding a iced out MAGA chain. They said, we calling you out, Drake. We tired of you being a closet MAGA. You need to stand tall with your sister Nicki and claim your MAGA status. They said, we're not going to keep doing you all these favors behind closed doors and you acting like you don't fuck with us when you know that we know that you fuck with us. So go ahead and come out. Let everybody know that you MAGA. Hell, it ain't like everybody can't tell already. You out here suing your motherfucking label because you lost a rap battle. You surround yourself with PDFs just like the rest of these MAGA motherfuckers. We hear you like them young, allegedly. You've been playing the victim for 2 years after you the one who started the shit, then got your ass whooped, and then want to claim, oh, they jumping me. The administration saw that shit and was like, yes, he's definitely one of us. He's one of us and he needs to be exposed. He needs to be exposed because we're tired of him pretending like he's not one of us when he is. We need that clout. Who knows? This may help your album sales because one thing MAGA loves is a bag of hot garbage.
Why would the most powerful office in the country spend time posting a rap meme? Not a tweet about policy, not a press briefing, not a statement, a meme. A doctored album cover with a chain on it. That's what the White House put out when Drake dropped Iceman and the internet completely lost his mind. Commentators melted down, Drake's identity got dissected on camera, and somehow a rapper's silence became a national political debate. But underneath all of that noise, there's something actually worth paying attention to. Because this wasn't random, and it wasn't just for laughs. So let's break down what's really going on here. So here's the setup. Drake dropped his album Iceman, and the cover is a gloved hand, a direct nod to Michael Jackson's iconic gloved, dripping in diamonds and ice. It's a clean image, very deliberate, very on brand for where Drake is right now as an artist. The album got big quickly, and when something gets that big in the culture, brands jump on it. That's just how the internet works. Sports teams posted their version, corporations ran with the format. It became one of these meme cycles where everybody puts their own spin on the aesthetic and rides the wave for a few days of engagement. Totally normal, happens with every major album release at this point. But then the White House posted it. Their version had the gloved hand holding a MAGA chain instead of a diamond one, captioned quote unquote iced out, which is a direct double meaning playing on both the album title and ICE, as in Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And right there is where the situation stopped being a regular meme cycle and became something different because there's a meaningful gap between a sports team doing a fan riff or on an album cover and the federal government using the same image or that same image to put a cool, confident aesthetic on an active immigration enforcement operation. One is marketing. The other is the government communicating a policy position through the language of pop culture, and those are not the same thing. Drake said nothing, no statement, no cease and desist, no post, nothing. And because of that silence, Drake became the center of the story rather than what the White House actually did. Within 48 hours, the conversation had completely shifted. It wasn't really about the post anymore. It was about why Drake hadn't responded to the post, what that said about him, what it meant for his identity, and whether his silence made him complicit in everything the administration stands for or in agreement and everything the administration stands for. That's a significant narrative pivot, and it happened fast. Now, other artists have moved quickly when their work got attached to political figures or causes they didn't agree with. Beyonce, Rihanna, the estate of Isaac Hayes, the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, all of them either sent legal notices or filed suits with their music when their music got used without their consent in political context. Those are real precedents, real things. You know, Drake doing nothing is a choice that stands out against that backdrop. And it's a fair thing to notice. The question of why he stayed quiet is legitimate. But the answer the media landed on, that silence means endorsement. And endorsement means full support for every policy this administration runs. That's where the conversation jumped the tracks. Because before we get to what Drake's silence means, there's a more interesting question sitting right underneath all of this that almost nobody stopped to ask. And before I get into that, and the media meltdown even more, I want you guys to check out this clip. But before I play this clip, I want to give a disclaimer that the clip does involve Drake's new album, Music. Now, more so, I most likely may get copyrighted due to Drake's music. And within that being said, if the video or this clip goes silent within the video when I play it, it's because I got copyrighted and I had to silence the video due to the music in regards to Drake album that got copyrighted. But hopefully that's not the case. But I wanted to put that disclaimer out there because if you wonder why the video may have gone silent while I'm playing the clip, that is why, because I got copyrighted and I had to silence the video. So with no further ado, let's get into the clip.
Iceman.
Iceman.
And yet, Drizzy Drake has not come out and said one word. This has been up for 2 days. 2 days, y'all. He ain't said shit. They are remixing his shit on the White House page on TikTok. And this man ain't came out and said a word. I have seen artists come out the exact same day and tell that man to take that shit down or you're going to be dealing with a lawsuit. Multiple people have done this. I mean, Beyonce, Eddie Grant, the estate of Isaac Hayes, the White Stripes, Aerosmith, Rihanna, the Rolling Stones, all issued cease or desist orders, or they flat out sued. But yet Drake is really fucking quiet. You know why I say he not like us? Because once again, the White House is very comfortable with using his music. But have never done that shit with Kendrick. And when it comes to the black community, he teeters. He jumps to this side when it's beneficial for him. In my eyes, Kendrick will always be better than him. And it's not just about the music. It's the character. It's the morals. And it's the black pride in him. But go off, Drake.
Now, this is Scarface. For those who don't know who Scarface is, he's a legendary Southern rapper from Houston, Texas, best known for being a member of the rap group Ghetto Boys and for helping shape hardcore Southern hip hop in the 1990s. He became respected for his deep storytelling, serious tone, and realistic lyrics about street life, poverty, mental health, loyalty, and survival. Unlike a lot of other rappers who focus mainly on partying or flashy lifestyles, Scarface built his reputation off of raw, emotional, almost movie-like storytelling that made people feel what he was saying. Many artists across hip hop consider him honest. Well, one of the greatest lyricists of how honest and reflective and influential his music became over multiple decades. So this is Scarface, the man that you see to the left with the glasses and on the screen here. And he said, Scarface on White House's Drake Iceman post, "This means white power." The Southern rapper declared that he knew what the White House's social media accounts meant, quote unquote, by the gesture. Scarface has addressed the hand gesture of on the cover of Drake's Iceman album and theorized that the Trump administration referenced it for nefarious reasons. The artwork, which sees Drizzy wearing Michael Jackson's famous Swarovski crystal glove, nods to the rapper holding nearly as much #1 songs as the King of Pop, who he's already surpassed in years spent on the Billboard 200. So there you have it. So this is another part of the backlash in regards of another hip hop artist that's been around for a long time. He decided to add himself into the chat of the media meltdown. Now, get into another meltdown.
Everyone calls me crazy until I'm right. But my thing is, I'm a Virgo, so I know I'm always right. I posted that video about Drake and the Iceman thing being weird. Why, when I log into Twitter, this is the first thing I see. Oh, we're just gonna put it right here. Right. But I'm crazy? Like, y'all have no idea what this does for my ego and, like, me never being wrong. Like, when I tell you so many Drake boyfriends, dare I say, were on my last video where I was saying, at the very least, Iceman in a red, white, and blue feels tone deaf. Like, I said at the very least. and people were like, you're way too woke, da 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 da, like this is such a reach. Okay, is it a reach now? Is it a reach now? The official White House page, you can go on Twitter and go to the official White House page and see that they posted that, talking about iced out with a MAGA chain. Am I too woke now? People are gonna be like, well, he can't control what the White House says. Okay, but is he gonna tell them to take it down? Do we think that Drake is gonna tell them to take it down? No, I don't think so. And also, why does the White House feel like they can do that? Like, and like, obviously they can do whatever they want, but I'm saying, like, if Beyonce were to come out with an album, do you think that MAGA would use that as a promotional opportunity to be like, Cowboy Carter MAGA? No, like, they wouldn't. But why wouldn't they? Because they know Beyonce don't play that. Like, they know that she would be like, take the shit down. Is Drake gonna say, take the shit down? Like, I don't think so. And I also heard something about, in one of the songs, he talking about they don't like me because I'm fair skinned and Jewish. You have entirely lost me, Drake. You never had me, but you lost me.
The reaction came fast and it came loud. Within hours of Drake's silence becoming apparent, commentators across social media and YouTube were in full spiral mode. And the specific flavor of that spiral is worth paying attention to because it tells you a lot about what was actually driving outrage. It wasn't just, quote unquote, the White House shouldn't have done that. It went somewhere much more personal, much faster. People who had never publicly spent much energy on Drake's cultural loyalty suddenly had very detailed, very confident opinions about whether he was black enough to deserve their support. One commentator said the White House, as you guys seen in the second clip, she said the White House would have never done this with Kendrick Lamar, and the implication was direct. Kendrick has black pride. Drake's silence proves he doesn't. And that absence of a statement makes him, agreeable or in agreement or rocking with the Trump administration and MAGA. And that's the framework they snapped into place within about 48 hours, and they built it fast. And the comparison to other artists came up, right? Beyonce, Rihanna, Eddie Grant, the aesthetic of Isaac Hayes, the White Stripes, Aerosmith, the Rolling Stones. The list got cited repeatedly as proof that real artists with integrity, don't let this kind of thing slide. And look, that's a fair historical point on its own. Those artists had legal tools. They assessed their situations and they acted. That's documented. The question of why Drake made a different calculation is genuinely worth asking. But the commentators weren't asking it as a question. They were using it as a verdict. The conclusion was already written before the evidence got presented. Silence equals endorsement, and endorsement means you are personally aligned with every enforcement action this administration runs. Full stop. And that's where the logic stops holding together. Silence is not a political statement. For most people operating in the real world, and especially for someone in Drake's position right now, mid-album rollout with an active legal dispute against his label running in the background, silence is a business calculation, a legal strategy, or just someone deciding they don't owe the comment section a press release on a 48-hour deadline. The idea that a black artist is obligated to perform his political alignment publicly on demand within 2 days or lose his credibility as a black man. That's not accountability. That's a loyalty test with a predetermined answer, and the people administering it were generating significant engagement off his silence while simultaneously accusing him of benefiting from the attention he didn't ask for. There's also something worth naming about the irony running through the whole thing. The loudest voices demanding Drake speak up, demanding, not asking, are people who would, in any other context or situation, argue for an artist's right to stay out of politics entirely. The principle only seems to apply when the silence points in a convenient direction. When an artist stays quiet and that quiet makes the other side look comfortable, suddenly free expression has conditions attached to it. And here's the part that actually matters. Every video demanding Drake speak, every thread about why he was quiet, every hot take connecting him to various political pipelines, all of it kept the story alive and pointing squarely at Drake. Now I want you guys to check out this next clip.
The official White House Instagram page just posted this AI-generated Drake iced out album cover with a MAGA chain. And for all the Nick Cannons, Stephen A. Smiths, and Amber Roses of the world that say, how come y'all wasn't hating on Trump when he was in politics and we like the culture y'all wasn't saying about him? Hey, this illustrates how you can love black culture and hate black people. The community that cultivated and birthed hip-hop culture is now being assaulted in more ways than some by this current administration, and they have no problem with posting memorabilia or aesthetics from hip-hop culture, the same culture they criminalizing and demonizing even though they love it. What's something that's classy when white folks do it and trashy when black folks do it? Listening to hip-hop, doing anything that's correlated to hip-hop culture. They playing in our faces. They can use the aesthetics that come from our culture and our community at the same time. They're making it hard for us to get to the polls, making it hard for us to get healthcare, making it hard for us to get quality education. But hey, our culture, they can always engage in cultural exchange for that. And Drake, I know you in album promotion mode. You just dropped 3 of them, but you got to say something about this. You need to go and come out. Everything that's going to happen in the Black America, you need to say something about this.
We have news from the White House. They tweeted this, iced out, and it's a picture of Drake's album cover for Iceman, but he's holding a MAGA chain. I guess we have some Drake fans in the White House. The OVO administration. Imagine living long enough to watch Young Money grow into old MAGA. Nicki Minaj recently came out as a Republican. She had no choice. Her house kept getting swatted. She reached out to Governor Gavin Newsom. He wouldn't do anything. So, you know, Trump was the next best. The Democrats couldn't help, so the Republicans stepped in. Nicki Minaj, you are setting a dangerous precedent. I live in New York, and this is our governor, Kathy Hochul. Now, Miss Hochul, I'm going to email you a list of demands, and if you can't meet them, I may have to follow Nicki Minaj's lead. I don't even think they can vote. I know he can't vote. She might be able to, but definitely not you.
If he doesn't come out and rebuke this, he's an alt-right pipeline. I've said it on this channel multiple times. I've done the deep dives. I've done the 40-minute long video where we expose Drake being connected to the alt-right pipeline through the company Happy Dad, and how Happy Dad was acquired by 1789 Capital, which is Rebecca Mercer and Donald Trump Jr. I've done that content already. This video is a layup. You either rebuke this or you're down with it. I understand there's a bunch of other, brands coming out and doing it because it's a trend, but the White House doing this is a statement, and him being down with the White House doing this is a statement. And that statement is everything that is happening in this country through this administration, you are okay with. You're down with it. Not only are you down with it, you support it. And I guess the question becomes, if you're a Drake fan, are you cool with your boy being cool with this?
And here's the part that actually matters, right? When you see all of this, it kept the audience's energy focused on the rapper's Instagram activity instead of the government post that started the whole thing. The people who were the most furious about the White House's communication strategy ended up doing more to advance that strategy than anyone else in the room, because they made sure nobody was looking at the strategy itself. So step back from Drake entirely for a second, because there's a question sitting underneath all of this that the entire media cycle managed to skip right over. Why is the executive branch of the federal government posting rap memes at all? Not, quote unquote, why Drake specifically, but why is the institution responsible for running the country spending any part of its official communication budget on a trending album format? Because once you actually follow that question, somewhere instead of scrolling past it, the whole situation reads completely differently. When the White House attached the Iceman aesthetic to ICE operations, they weren't making a joke, they were making an argument. The argument works like this: ICE keeps the country secure, security creates stability, and stability is the foundation that lets people actually enjoy their lives. The glove, the chain, the quote unquote iced out caption, that's not random. That's the government borrowing the language of cool, confident, untouchable energy and attaching it to federal enforcement. The message underneath the meme is, this is handled, the border is under control, and a country that has its act together is a country where people can relax. Go stream the album, go to the concert, the foundation is solid. Governments has always understood that you communicate emotional states more effectively through culture than through press briefings, right? Franklin D. Roosevelt used radio to make people feel study during the Depression, Reagan leaned into the Hollywood imagery to make the country feel strong again. This administration is using hip hop aesthetics to deliver the same basic message through a different channel. The medium changes, the goal doesn't. And here's where the constitutional piece comes in, because this is the part that actually matters beyond the marketing analysis. A government has a duty to communicate policy clearly and honestly. When enforcement operations that carry real legal consequences for real families get packaged as trending content, the packaging does something specific. It replaces substance with sensation. The people being processed through immigration courts right now aren't experiencing a vibe. They are navigating legal proceedings, often without adequate representation, often without a clear timeline, often without their families intact. The meme doesn't address any of that. It doesn't have to, because the meme was never designed to inform, it was designed to associate. That's the gap between optics and outcomes. It's a gap worth naming clearly. When institutions start treating serious policy like a content drop, the chain of accountability gets harder to trace. You can't hold a government responsible for deportation appeal clearance rates when the public conversation has been redirected toward whether a rapper posted a statement. The performance of governance and the actual practice of governance are not the same thing. And when one consistently substitutes for the other, the people who bear the cost are the ones who never had a seat at the table in the first place. Working families, immigrant communities, people whose lives don't pause because a meme went viral. The media's job in that moment should have been to pull the conversation back to ground level. What are the actual enforcement numbers? What does due process looks like inside the system right now? What legal resources exist for people being processed, and are those resources accessible? Those questions require patience and sustained attention, neither of which a meme cycle is designed to produce. And the commentators who spent 3 days dissecting Drake's silence never got there, which means the communication strategy did exactly what it was built to do. It consumed the room and left the harder questions sitting untouched. This isn't a new playbook. Attaching cultural moments to controversial policy to soften public resistance has been a tool of governance for as long as governments have audiences to manage. And we all know the backlash that have came with, critics saying the nature of enabling behavior stemming from the Biden administration, when Kamala Harris, the former vice president, was in control of the border, where they were allowing illegal immigrants to come into the country illegally. And it was a lot of backlash and a lot of, tension, like intense tension against ICE and fighting, and regular citizens fighting and bothering and, harassing and being agents of chaos towards ICE to basically go against the federal law enforcement to hold the security so people can enjoy their lives and actually enjoy and have good times with those they love and be productive citizens doing what they need to do in their day-to-day lives without crime running rampant from a illegal immigration standpoint. So you can look at this as an opportunity for the administration to soften but also resonate with everyday Americans through an album as a way to deliver that comfort comes with safety. You ever thought of that? So the move gets made in the open, the internet carries it, and by the time the dust settles, the window to ask meaningful questions about what's actually happening on the ground actually has already closed. Right? So a cultural movement with high emotional charge gets activated. In this case, a massive album drop for one of the most recognizable artists on the planet. The government attaches itself to that moment through a post that takes about 30 seconds to make. The post generates traction. The reaction generates counter reaction. The counter reaction generates takes, threads, videos, and debates. All which keeps the original post at the center of the conversation for days without anyone having to defend the underlying policy in a direct factual way. Nobody had to go on record about enforcement numbers. Nobody had to answer questions about legal representation access or how fast crime has been down or crime has gone up in regards of, ICE, customs border enforcement, and a comparison amongst administration. And the most important part, national security for the United States, and also safety for everyday American citizens, and also out of respect for the immigrants who did the right thing legally coming into the country, just as any other country. Canada has immigration enforcement. You know, I just covered a video. You guys could go check that out with Britain, you know, and the UK when it comes to their borders being open now and the citizens aren't having it. You had grandmothers and, you know, veterans who are sitting there like, look, I haven't been housed or provided for, and I fought for this country and upheld this heritage. And I want my grandkids to be able to recognize the heritage and the next generation to recognize the heritage and not it be revamped or changed, but actually the culture in which individuals who do come into this country the right way should embrace out of respect for how we do things in this country versus illegals, which is happening in the UK right now, and their borders being swarmed with illegals being let in from their government, in which those illegals come with their own cultures and it's taken over the actual culture or the way that's been things that have been done, cultivated from the origin of that country. Right? So the conversation that should have been happening wasn't happening, but you guys see now that I broke it down how the administration was resonating to put out a message that individuals, it went right over their head. The conversation was happening somewhere else entirely. And it was happening loudly enough to drown out anything that was actually could have been productive, in which my whole goal is to make this a productive conversation, right? And the importance of it, the real message. So the media plays a willing role in this. You know, a detailed breakdown of ICE, you know, and, you know, the detentions and, you know, the deportation and how fast things are taking place and things like that. So when you look at all of this, a video about whether Drake is politically compromised requires a clip or reaction in the comment section that runs itself. But the incentive structure isn't subtle. Outrage about a celebrity generates click in a way that policy journalism simply doesn't. And platforms reward engagement regardless of whether that engagement produces understanding. So the cycle feeds itself. The White House gets the narrative embedded in the culture. The media gets its engagement numbers, and the commentators get their view counts. And the people whose actual circumstances are affected by the policy in which it upholds national security for everyday Americans, everyday citizens, none of that attention directed toward that. And that's the part that deserves to sit with you for a minute. The community is affected by crime running rampant from illegal immigration. Lake and Riley, you know, working families navigating the crime that was allowed at one point. So I'm gonna leave it there, family. And I just want to let you know, family, the habit that needs to be built is not just for this story, but for every story that explodes this way. What is sitting quietly in the background right now while every available pixel is pointed at this? Because the answer to that question is almost always where the actual story lives. And this is with anything. And the people engineering these moments understand that better than most of the audiences consuming them. Everything happens for a reason. Right? So you have to pull Drake out of the framework completely and look at what's left. What you are seeing is an institution that has decided the line between governance and entertainment, right? And what that causes everyone when it goes unchallenged. Like open borders for illegal immigrants to come in, right? So policy gets announced through aesthetics. Enforcement gets branded. Serious legal and human consequences get packaged as content and dropped into a feed next to highlight reels and reaction videos. And when you look at that, when that becomes the normal operating mode, something specific and important breaks. The chain of accountability from individuals who don't want to actually see the real message that's important. Instead of the drama, instead of the noise. What's the important part and what's the important message to learn and get from this that's productive? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm curious. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. I'll catch you next one. Let the love supersede the hate. On that note, family, peace.